so it's been one hell of a few couple of weeks. As you can tell by the title of this video, I did have my baby and she was 8 weeks early. I had taken 2 weeks off of my pregnancy updates, my pregnancy vlogs, because my due date was presumably 2 weeks later than originally thought based on growth scans. Well, it's been exactly 1 week since we found out that my due date was in fact correct. My original due date was correct. So my original due date of September 30th was correct, and the 2 weeks later due date at October 15th was incorrect. So I am going to go ahead and update you on everything, including my birth story in today's video. So if you want to find out everything that's been going on, then just keep watching. So 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday, I had a regular doctor's appointment, a regular checkup, and during the 2 weeks that I hadn't filmed, I found out that I failed my 1 hour glucose test. So during that appointment as well, I was taking my 3 hour to find out if I had gestational diabetes. So during the regular during the regular doctor's appointment, they did the usual. They tested my urine, took my blood pressure, weight, all that stuff. In almost 3 weeks, I hadn't gained any weight. So that was something that was a little strange because I was pretty good about gaining roughly about a pound a week each week during my second, third trimesters. Also, my blood pressure was really high. It was really high for me. It was 150/90. My doctor ended up coming in towards the end of my appointment and said that I had actually tested positive for protein in my urine. Usually it's a 0, that's normal, and mine was 2+. So she said that she was pretty concerned about me possibly having preeclampsia. So she wanted me to do the 24-hour urine analysis and blood work to test for that. She said that based on my no weight gain, the baby measuring behind since the anatomy scan, the glucose test, me failing the first one, and now the protein and high blood pressure, and that my due date was in fact correct. My original due date was, and that the pushback from the maternal fetal specialist was incorrect. So I was pretty upset and pretty scared. I think anybody would be. I didn't have any of those issues with my first pregnancy, so this was completely new to me. So I called my husband and let him know. The doctor didn't want me to worry too much. She said that she would let me know, my diagnosis and stuff after the 24-hour urine analysis, but to not freak out. But if I did test positive for preeclampsia, we more than likely would be delivering early based on how severe it was. So I went home that day, and I was home all day the next day. The next day was Wednesday, and I went ahead and started monitoring my blood pressure at home, and my blood pressure was pretty high consecutively the entire day. It kind of went in waves. It was fluctuated a lot. I also found out that next day on Wednesday that I failed my 3 hour glucose test. So I was officially diagnosed with gestational diabetes, which was a really big bummer, but honestly not really that big of a surprise considering everything that I found out at my previous appointment on the previous day. So that was a real bummer, and it made me really nervous about the preeclampsia testing. So during the 24-hour preeclampsia testing, I had to pee in this jug for 24 hours and collect all of my urine to take to the lab the next day, where they would take my urine, test it to see how high the protein levels were for the whole day, as well as do blood work to check my kidney function and my liver enzymes and a few other things. So Thursday morning rolls around, and I have a 9:30 appointment with the maternal fetal specialist to check the growth of the baby. And before I did that, I went and dropped off my blood work, I did my blood work and dropped off my urine samples, and then went to my growth scan. Kevin came with me to that, and whenever they measure on the ultrasound, I'm able to see, how many weeks and everything each body part is measuring. I knew immediately during that growth scan that something was not right, that it was looking pretty bad. The baby's abdomen had not grown at all in 3 weeks. Her abdomen was measured, I think it maybe grew like by a week, but the ultrasound tech did like 7 or 8 different measurements of the abdomen in different positions to try to see if she could get a larger size. And the baby's abdomen, the largest measurement that she got was 27 weeks. The arms and the legs had caught up. They were no longer 2 weeks behind the abdomen. They had caught up to the abdomen. They were measuring at 26 weeks each, the arms and the legs were. So the previous week they were measuring 2 weeks behind that. So, or the 3 weeks before that they were measuring 2 weeks behind. So those had grown by 2 weeks. Her head had also grown. Her head had seemed to grow by the 3 weeks. Her head was now measuring at almost 30 weeks. So the head was growing, but the body was not. And the maternal fetal specialist came in. I updated her on my gestational diabetes diagnosis, as well as the chance of me having preeclampsia. The maternal fetal specialist was clearly very concerned. She basically straight up told us, you're leaving this growth scan appointment, but you're not going home. You need to go straight to the hospital, and you're more than likely going to stay there until you deliver. I, of course, started crying. I'm all kinds of upset. Kevin's clearly upset. His mom was there with us. She's very upset. We're very confused. They had me do a non-stress test while I was there. The baby did pass her non-stress test, but my blood pressure was high. And the maternal fetal specialist told me that even though we don't have the results back from the preeclampsia, that I 100% am going to be diagnosed with it. Like, she just could tell by my symptoms and the baby not growing and us finally pretty much having an answer. Because up until that point, like, we've been having growth scans at this point for almost 12 weeks because we've been battling this since my 20-week anatomy scan, and I was 1 day away from turning 32 weeks based on my original due date. So 12 weeks of growth scans, and this was the first time during those growth scans that the baby had fallen off of the charts. Her growth had just stopped. So she had completely fallen off the percentile charts, and she's 32 weeks gestationally, but she was measuring about a 28-weeker. So she's really behind, like a little more than a month behind on growth. I'm just devastated. So scared, don't know what's gonna happen, scared to death for my baby. They had all, assured me that everything looked normal with her. She was just really small. And after she told me that I would be going to the hospital, they gave me an official diagnosis of IUGR as well. So all in 1 week, I'm being diagnosed with gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, and IUGR. So that is just a lot to happen in 1 week, not even 1 full week, but just a matter of days, because this all started on a Tuesday and it was now a Thursday. So she did tell me and Kevin we could go take a little bit of a break, grab some lunch, but that we needed to go to the hospital, and they wouldn't even let me go home to pack a bag. So we went and had lunch. It was a pretty emotional lunch for us because we're both really scared. He's scared for me. We're both scared for the baby. It was just a very emotional day. So after lunch, we go to the hospital and we get checked in. We still don't have the results of my preeclampsia testing because I had just turned it in that day. They said that I possibly could have the results by the end of Thursday, but it would more than likely be Friday before we had any kind of answer. So we check into the hospital and my doctor comes in and speaks to us. She is saying that, they really want to try to keep the baby in for another 2 weeks. That I am 32 weeks and babies born at 32 weeks have like a 95% chance of survival. So even if the baby was born, she more than likely would be fine, but of course you want to keep the baby in as long as possible. So we were thinking that we would be there. We were planning on being at the hospital anywhere from 2 weeks to a month at most. She told me 100% we would not be making it to the due date, but they wanted to hold off as long as possible, but that we wouldn't know for sure until we received the results back from the preeclampsia testing. So Thursday, we were just at the hospital. Family came and visited us. We were all just very confused because we didn't have any answers. So on Friday, We finally get the results back that evening of the preeclampsia results, and we were really frustrated all day on Friday because we had expected to wake up that morning and have the results, but we didn't get the results until later Friday afternoon, which was really frustrating. But the maternal fetal specialist came in with my preeclampsia results, and I did have severe preeclampsia, which is insane because I really didn't have any symptoms. Like, it just seemed to happen just like that, like within a matter of days. But once we looked into other symptoms of preeclampsia, I had actually been experiencing symptoms the week before. We were on vacation in Florida, and I thought I was having what was really bad heartburn, but it ended up not being heartburn at all. It felt like I had just like a fireball sitting like right in between my breasts, and the whole top of my abdomen hurt very bad. There was tons of pressure, a lot of burning, and it lasted for a few days, even into the next week. Earlier that week, it had been hurting me, and I had taken Zantac, I was taking Tums, and nothing was making it feel better. Finally, the symptoms of those just went away, but we ended up finding out from my preeclampsia test results that my liver enzymes were high, so that can cause the upper abdominal pain. So it was not heartburn, it was actually preeclampsia symptoms. We just had no idea that that's what that was. So on Friday afternoon, we got the results that I had severe preeclampsia, and my maternal fetal specialist told me that we would be delivering the very next day, that it was too dangerous to hold off another 2 weeks because I guess when preeclampsia shows up and it accelerates that quickly, that it could be a matter of hours or just a matter of days, and I could become very, very sick and start seizing, and they didn't want to take a chance on doing that. We pretty much knew that the baby would not be growing anymore, that the best thing for them to do was to do a delivery, and we were going to be delivering the very next day, that Saturday. So it was another emotional evening. We were all very scared, and Kevin and I were obviously very worried. I wasn't really worried for myself. I mean, I was, but I was more worried about the baby, and he was clearly worried about both of us, which is 100% natural to worry. So Saturday, I was scheduled for a C-section. My C-section was at noon on Saturday, and I did not have a C-section with Kaysen, with my firstborn. I had a completely easy peasy, non-exciting pregnancy. Like, it was so smooth, so easy. My water broke on its own. I delivered I was only in labor for 10 hours with him. I didn't tear, didn't have an episiotomy. It was just like the most blessed, amazing birth you could even imagine. He was just so simple, so easy. So this whole ordeal was completely different than my first. So I was really scared for the C-section. I remember when they brought me back to do my section, I was shaking. I was terrified, and I just wasn't speaking. And I've never prayed so much in my life. Like, those few days that I was in the hospital, that's all I did. I just prayed nonstop that I would be okay, that the baby would be okay, mostly that the baby would be okay. I was terrified for her. I was scared that something was going to be wrong with her, that she wasn't going to survive, that she was going to be too small, and the stress of it all would be too much for her. I do want to point out, though, that I did receive steroid injections. So on Thursday when I got there, I received my first steroid shot. And steroid shots are given to help the baby's lungs. That's mainly what it's for, to give the baby's lungs a boost for premature delivery. So on Thursday when I got checked into the hospital, I received my first steroid injection, and I received my second one on Friday afternoon. So I was fortunate enough to receive both rounds of the steroids. So Saturday at noon, they wheel me back. I'm laying on the operation table and I'm scared to death. Kevin was there with me. I didn't feel any pain during the surgery, but I could feel all of them, the tugging and the pulling, and it was very strange. Like, it's really hard to explain. You can feel all the tugging and the pulling, and and all of that. Whenever they finally got to the baby and were pulling the baby out, she said, "Oh my God, Casey, she's so small." And she pulls her out and we don't hear anything. And all I'm saying is, "Oh my gosh, why isn't she crying? Why isn't she crying? Why isn't she crying?" And then all of a sudden you hear the suction and the baby starts crying. And tears started rolling down. So I was like, thank God she's crying. I mean, it's the tiniest cry I've ever heard in my life. It sounded like a little kitten, tiniest cry ever. And the doctor brings her around and shows us to Kevin. Kevin and I take one look at that baby and burst into tears because we had never seen anything like it. She was so incredibly small. Her movements were very sporadic. It was just, and the doctor was holding her in an odd position. So it was a very scary scene, and we were just terrified. So they show us to her real quick, and they put her in a room with the NICU nurses right away. So me and Kevin are very emotional. The doctors are sewing me up, putting me back together, and they let Kevin know whenever they're finishing up that he can go and check on the baby. So he went back there to look at the baby, and the whole time, as soon as the door opens, you can still hear the baby crying. So I'm like, oh my God, she's crying. Like, I cannot believe that. And Kevin goes and looks at her and comes back and says, she's absolutely perfect. She's perfectly fine. She's breathing on her own. She's crying. Like, it was just amazing. So just immediately felt better that the baby was okay, and she was proportionate. She was there. She was just extremely small, but that she was crying and she was breathing on her own. It was just absolutely amazing. So after the C-section, the NICU nurses took the baby back to the NICU to get her settled, and I went into kind of like a recovery room where I stayed for 1 hour. And after my surgery, I didn't feel any pain. I was completely numb from like the chest down. So I couldn't move I basically felt like I was paralyzed. They gave me a spinal block with some medicine as well. So I couldn't move my legs at all, couldn't feel anything, nothing. But the feeling in my legs did slowly start to come back, but none of the pain came with that. So they allowed me to go and see the baby 1 hour after surgery. So they wheeled me on my bed to the NICU, and I got to see her and touch her through her incubator, which was really special. We found out in the NICU an hour after surgery that Laney only weighed 2 pounds 3 ounces, which is exactly the weight that they told us at our growth scan that she weighed approximately. And typically ultrasounds aren't correct, but her weight and her measurements from her ultrasound were right on point. So she weighed 2 pounds and 3 ounces, born at 32 weeks. She was born approximately at 12:29 in the afternoon, which is crazy because 12:29 is actually Kayson's birthday. So the time that she was born is her brother's birth date. And the actual day that she was born is my sister's birthday. So her and my sister are going to share a birthday. So that's pretty special. But anyways, that was the only time that I got to see the baby that day. They had to take me immediately back to my room because they wanted to hook me up to a magnesium, an IV with magnesium. And what the magnesium does is a magnesium treatment after a cesarean due to preeclampsia helps prevent seizures, because sometimes after delivery for a mom who has preeclampsia, they said that the blood pressure can just skyrocket and she can start seizing. So the magnesium drip was to kind of subdue my blood pressure and prevent those seizures from happening. So they wanted me to be on the IV for 12 hours to prevent any possible seizures from happening. So I wasn't able to see the baby anymore that day. I had to wait until the following day, Sunday, to be able to go and see her. So I felt perfectly fine after my C-section. I didn't feel any pain at all. The only thing is that my memory is a little bit fuzzy after the C-section. All Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening, I can remember things, but my memory is pretty foggy. I guess they also had me on morphine, so my speech was a little slurred, and I felt like I had a lot of energy due to all the medication, but my memory is a little bit spotty. I do remember though that night, like in the middle of the night, I was itching so bad. I was itching so bad. They gave me a couple rounds of Benadryl, but nothing would stop the itchiness. My whole body just itched. And the next day I had bruises all up and down my legs from itching so hard. But the next day I had been in bed for a long time, over 24 hours, before they wanted me to get up and get out of bed and take a shower and all that stuff. So, I mean, when you have a C-section, I guess they want you up and about as soon as possible. So, I think it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I had gotten out of bed, and getting out of bed was very scary. I was very nervous, but I did it. They also wanted me to go and take a shower and take my bandages off. And that was the roughest part for me. Thank God they put a chair in my shower, because taking off those bandages made me extremely nauseous and made me feel extremely lightheaded, because I was scared to death of what my body was going to look like. I was scared to death to take off those bandages, and just scared to death that my belly was just going to burst open and everything was going to fall out. So I had to sit in the shower for a couple minutes and regain myself and put myself back together, because taking off those bandages was extremely terrifying. But I did it. I refused, though, to look in the mirror. I was not ready to look at my incision and see what that looked like. But my nurse did have to look at my incision to make sure everything looked right, and Kevin looked at it as well. And they both said that it looked really great. They said that it looked fantastic. So that made me feel a little bit better, but I was just terrified to touch my tummy, terrified to look at it, any of that. I did get to see the baby the next day, and I got to hold her, which was really special. It was just a complete whirlwind of a day, and just a few days at that. But we found out the next day after the C-section, the baby did not need any assistance with oxygen at all whatsoever. She was breathing 100% on her own, and we were in shock, because I expected her to have to be on oxygen for a little while. That's just what I expected. But that strong little baby did not need any assistance at all whatsoever. She had been breathing 100% on her own, and we were so incredibly thankful, so happy. We couldn't have gotten any luckier in that aspect. She is extremely small, but she is mighty, and we just couldn't be more thankful for that. They did say that her glucose levels were very low, so they did have to give her a few rounds of glucose, but I think she had 3 different rounds of that, but ended up after the 3rd round having good levels and being able to maintain those levels. They did treat her for jaundice. They said that jaundice is extremely common in preemie babies. So her bilirubin levels in her blood, that's how they know that a baby has jaundice or not. Her levels weren't too high. They were at a 5, so they decided to go ahead and treat her. And how they treat the babies with jaundice is they put them under this blue UV light, and they do that for a day or 2, depending on how long it takes for the bilirubin levels to go down. She ended up being under the light for 2 days, which wasn't bad at all. They just had her, it looked like she was in a tanning bed, really. They had these little goggles, or these little glasses that they put over her face to protect her eyes, and then she just bakes under the UV light, and she only needed that for 2 days, and the bilirubin levels were back down to 0. So we were really fortunate with that as well. So honestly, things just couldn't have been going any better. We have been extremely lucky to have a baby born so early, but doing so incredibly well. They've started feeding her. They started feeding her 2 days after she was born. I want to say that they started feeding her on Monday. So she didn't get any, she wasn't fed at all on Saturday, the day she was born, or Sunday. They just had her solely on an IV drip for hydration, and they started her feeds on Monday, 2 days after she was born. And they start out with just very little, 3 milliliters, which is like half of a teaspoon. So they do that every 3 hours, and every day they've been able to double her feed, or to bump up her feedings, which is amazing. So she's been able to handle all of her feedings. She does have a feeding tube that goes through her nose. She's going to be on the feeding tube, they said, for at least 2 weeks, and then when the baby's turn 34 weeks for their gestational age, that's when they introduce bottles. So they've been able to up her feeds every single day. So I'm not sure what her feeds are today, but yesterday they were at 12 milliliters. So she has been handling her feeds like a champ. She's been able to digest them, and she's doing really, really well. Laney's exclusively receiving breast milk, and thankfully it's all been mine. I did sign up for donor milk just in case I was unable to produce for her. They had me start pumping the very next day after my C-section, and I didn't think that I was going to be able to get anything just because I had delivered so early before my due date, and it was a cesarean, so I didn't feel anything going on in the boob department. But they wanted me to go ahead and start pumping just to stimulate everything and see what happened. And I was shocked that I was able to produce that very first try. I produced colostrum for the first few days. My milk didn't come in until about, I want to say my milk came in on Tuesday, and it's Thursday now, so I've had my milk for 2 days. But I've done so well. I'm so proud of myself. I just did not think that I was going to be able to produce it all, and I've been able to produce more than enough so far, and I'm just praying that it can continue because I had a really hard time producing with casein. But I think that's because I was just ignorant to breastfeeding and how it worked, and I think I started working out and dieting way too soon, so I think that really affected the way that my milk was. So this time I'm much more aware. I'm not a pro or a completely intelligent person when it comes to breastfeeding, but I feel like I have a lot more knowledge this time around to try and make things better. Plus, I have a lot more reason to want to because she is a preemie, she's in the NICU, and all of the NICU nurses are very pro breast milk because they said that formula on preemies, sometimes it's a lot harder for their tummies to digest it. I've been really lucky and just so happy that I've been able to produce. I just feel like God has really blessed us through this entire ordeal, with her growing behind this whole time and all of this scary stuff that's been happening and all of these, last minute diagnosis for me and all of this stuff. I just feel like it was all just part of his plan. Like he knew that she wasn't something was wrong. Like something was wrong, but none of us here knew what it was. And all of a sudden I'm getting all of these diagnoses and all of this stuff, which pointed to the fact that she really needed to be born. And her needing to be born was like the best thing that could have happened for her because one, it was the safest for me and it was the safest for her. And just the fact that she's been able to breathe on her own this whole time and not have any assistance with that, that she is healthy in every way and just eating already and being able to handle her feeds and me being able to produce, it's just like everything is starting to fall into place, and it's just we could not have been more fortunate with what happened in our situation, and we could not be more thankful with how all of this has turned out. Like we have just been so lucky, and I just thank God every single day for how this turned out, because with her being so far behind on her weight and her size and being born so early, it could have been so much worse, and it's just couldn't have worked out any better. So I know Kevin and I are so thankful. It has just been a crazy week. We don't know how long she's going to be in the NICU for. They said that they do start releasing babies at the 36-week mark, that there is no weight requirement, so that's awesome. Like she doesn't have to be a certain weight or anything to leave the hospital. She just has to be maintaining her body temperature, her oxygen levels, and maintain a certain amount of feeding throughout the day. Like they said that she has to be taking 8 bottles a day with no problem before she can be released from the hospital. And as of right now, she's been doing so well in everything that it seems like all she needs to do is eat and grow. So I'm trying not to get my hopes up about it, but we have the first or second week of September high in our hearts for her to be able to come home. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that all will go well and that she'll be able to come home in 4 weeks, or when she's 4 weeks. So if you guys want to pray for us or send us good thoughts, we would really appreciate it, because we really want our baby home. I had a really hard time coming to terms with having to leave her in the hospital. We were discharged on Tuesday, but on Monday, that's when I was like preparing myself. It was a very emotional day. I cried a lot. I was very sad at the thought of leaving her, but on Tuesday when it came time to leave, it was a lot better for me because I know that she is where she needs to be. Like, she's not even supposed to be here with us right now, but the NICU that she's in is wonderful. I love her nurses, and she's been doing so well, so that makes it a little bit easier. Plus, Kevin and I have 24-hour access to the NICU, so we can visit her whenever we want, for however long we want to, and we've just, you know, made it a priority to go and see her every single day. We don't want to go a day without seeing her, so I'll definitely keep you guys updated on how she's doing in the NICU. I plan on doing my 1 week postpartum update this weekend. I'll be 1 week postpartum on Saturday, and Laney will be a week old, so I'll combine updates for both her and I sometime this weekend. I'll get that filmed, so that should be up in a few days for you guys, so you can find out how I've been doing my first week after the cesarean and how she's been doing being a preemie. So I just wanted to update you guys and let you know our birth story, and just let you know that if you are in a similar situation to me, you've been diagnosed with similar things that I have, just know that it is scary, but you're not alone. You can do this. Your baby can do this. You just have to have faith, pray about it, and try to take care of yourself the best way that you can, and just trust your doctors, trust your nurses, make sure you're getting the kind of care that you deserve. And if you feel like something's not right, do not be afraid to speak up about it and let your doctors know. That's what they're there for. So definitely speak your mind. If you have concerns, you're worried about anything, make sure you bring it up to them so that you guys can look further into those concerns. But thank you guys so much for following this journey. I'm happy to share it with you guys. If I can help anybody, or, you know, be there to help anybody going through anything similar, then that would make me really happy. So be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of Laney's updates. And yeah, that's going to be it for today. So if you have any questions or anything, just leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to answer those for you guys. But thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys again in a few days.